To watch more exclusive content of Nove Tocco, become a member today at patreon.com/original gangsters.
Welcome to a very, very special and exclusive Original Gangsters podcast. I want to introduce a man that, at least in Detroit, doesn't need any introduction, but outside of Detroit, he probably does. And I'm really excited. I've built a relationship with him over the last decade. I got to know him a little bit through spending a year with his uncle, Tony Zerilli. So with no further ado, I want to introduce Nove Tocco, who is going to be doing some content with us. And we're going to be doing some live events this year where we're going to the Mob Museum in a couple months. We're going to do something together. And then I'm also going to be kind of helping him do some other platforms where he has a wider audience. But we're going to be here doing some YouTube, but also putting a lot of this content on. It's okay. A lot of this content on Patreon, where you can come and get a little bit more exclusivity. We're not going to talk about anybody that's still alive. Most of the stories and content we do is going to be about people that have long passed, and we don't want to ruffle feathers, with stuff that's going on today. We're not going to get into any of this mob tube drama that happens to follow people like Nove who jump online. We're not going to do any of that. So again, with no further ado, Nove, thank you so much for trusting me to shepherd you into this crazy world of online storytelling. And I'm excited. Thank you, Nove, for joining us.
Well, thank you, Scott, for the introduction. I really don't know what to say as far as the crazy world of YouTube. I'm not familiar with it.
Don't even worry yourself about it, because it's not going to really concern anything that we're doing. But I just wanted to let the audience know, that people that are consuming us, that's not going to be any part of the content we do. We're not going to be doing response videos or singling people out to mudsling at them. This is simply, it's going to be a drama-free situation where we're just going to tell stories from the past. I'm going to try to elicit some stuff that Nove's maybe never told anybody before. I'd like to eventually get out to maybe talking about some stuff outside of Detroit when he feels comfortable enough. People that he met, through his life, because he's lived a movie script. But Nove's been out of the life now for 25 years. And is just trying to live, his last chapter quietly. And I got nothing but respect for this guy. He's been tremendously good with me. His whole family has been really good to me, starting with his uncle, Tony Zerilli, who I spent that year with in 2014 and 15. So, I guess this first video that we're doing, I'd like to give Nove an opportunity to just try to kind of explain the situation about how his life in the life came to an end. And I think a lot of people don't really understand exactly what happened. I think a lot of people think that you were going across the country testifying at all these trials. He never testified at any trials. He was convicted in a RICO case with Jack Tocco and the Giacalone brothers and the Corrado brothers, and then eventually decided to cooperate, but he did not testify at that trial. So, Nove, why don't you just tell people about the bust itself? He went down in the famous game tax bust, and then what happened at trial and what gave you the impetus to just say, I'm tapping out. I'm done with this life.
Well, let's see. First of all, the game tax investigation began with an investigation on me and my street partner and my cousin, Paul Corrado. And the two of us were involved in, for the most part, illegal gambling, which is that kind of gambling that we're involved in is legal today. But in those days, it wasn't legal. And we came into investigation by the FBI. They wired our cars, and Our cars were wired for some time, even though I had people checking my car for a wire, but somehow, I don't know how good these people are that claim to know these things. And it ended up in a criminal indictment of, I don't remember how many altogether, but the trial in which I was involved with, which was the first of two trials, it had Jack Tocco, his brother Anthony Tocco, myself, my uncle Anthony Cirilli, Tony Jagiellone, Billy Jagiellone, and Paul Corrado. And Tony Corrado, which
Tony the
was
Bull, yeah.
Pardon me?
Tony the Bull.
Correct. That's his name. And that was a nickname that he did have. And Tony and Billy Jack, those were their nicknames. Jack Tocco was called Black Jack. Let me explain something about nicknames. First of all, Sicilian families have nicknames that go back generations. Only that's not what you always hear. The term Black Jack that was his family's nickname, Black. His father was Vito Nero, which means Black Bill or Black Vito. And my family.
They were dark complected too. I mean, Bill.
Yeah, they were
Tocco.
dark complected. My name is Tocco too, and I guess somewhere we go back and we're connected somehow. But my family is blue-eyed and blonde and fair. At any rate, we ended up being indicted. We went to trial in 1998. At the trial, there were a lot of animosity. I was upset during the trial. First of all, I thought that Peter Blanca was a very poor advisor as an attorney to Jack Tocco. And I kept telling Jack, who had no experience in federal courts, I had, and I told them point blank, Peter Blanca is not giving you good advice on how to walk into a federal trial. Number two, it was becoming obvious that the defense would have been Polly and Nove did everything. We didn't do anything, which is what it ended up. And what happened was we ended up being convicted. I was given 18 years. Paul Corrado was given 11 years. And Jack Tocco, the big boss, got a year. So,
which is unheard. Just for people, that is unheard of in our federal justice.
This was a RICO conspiracy.
Right. Every other person in Jack's position got either 20, 30 years, 40 years. And he was quite fortunate. And we can have another episode where we talk about how that happened. But let's just skip to how long was your trial?
It started in January and I ended up by the end of May. It was a long trial.
It was a long trial.
And there were very, very few defense witnesses. I didn't call any. Paul didn't call any. I think Jack called one. And I didn't think that was a good idea, but at that point, Jack was calling the shots. And there was a lot of animosity during the trial because of some things that were said on the tapes that they had us recorded saying. And some things were said in jest, and it was put out there that it was not in jest, and other things were said seriously. And anyway, a lot of things got misconstrued. Anyway, I was in prison, and I had left myself in the position so that my family would be cared for. One was I owned a small restaurant in Macomb County here in Michigan, and my nephews ran it. My wife was getting a small salary from that. Another was a little bit of an illegal operation, small casino, in which me and Paul owned. And our wives were supposed to be getting the incomes from that. Immediately upon our being put in prison, Jack and Tony Tocco sent guys over there to take over those operations and left our wives out in the cold. Incidentally, at one point during the trial, I had told everybody else that I would take the stand and take responsibility for everything. if they all paid me $100,000 a person so I could leave my wife with a half of $600,000. And they all didn't, they said no. Well, but neither here nor there at that point. And then some other things happened personally in my family that I had to take care of, so that I decided that I owed nothing to Jack Tocco or Tony Tocco. I had been asked to be introduced under them, and I refused. I would not.
I just want to clarify something for the audience. The family in Detroit was really split. You had it might have been split kind of three ways, but let's just, for the sake of what we're talking about here, you had Jack and Tony Tocco doing their thing, and then you had Anthony Zerilli, who was really Nove's rabbi, if you will, doing his own thing. When I interviewed Anthony, and you can speak on this now, he made it clear that, Nove and Paulie never took any oath to Jack and Tony, and there was no formal ceremony. But Anthony was saying, your uncle was saying, I was my own guys. I was empowering, and I was making my own guys. So your loyalty, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, Anthony was saying, Nove's loyalty was to me. It wasn't to Jack and Tony.
That's correct. In fact, I was offered to be inducted by Jack and Tony, and I refused because I would not take a vow offering any patronage to them. I won't do it. I wouldn't do it. I did not trust them, nor did I really like them. I didn't think they were honorable men in the old world of honorable. Paul Corrado was the same way. He felt the same way, even though he was a nephew to Tony the Bull. And the two of us lived our lives. They said we traded on their reputation, but we were trading on our names too. Both of us had been pampered as children, brought up as little street princes, but we knew the ways of the world on the streets, unlike Jack and Tony Tocco.
Tell everybody who your grandpas were, just so people understand.
My grandfather was the man you referred to as Joe Uno, was Joe Zerilli, a man whom I greatly respected and loved. And
he was a legend. I mean, a real legend. Was on the commission, ruled for over 40 years, had respect, not just in Detroit, not just in the United States, but globally. He was a guy that was incredibly respected and beloved.
And that's something that I ran into all over the country when I met other people. When I got when I was in trouble and in prison, and I met people from other parts of the country, they all said the same thing. If you were Joe's grandson, what can we do for you? And that was the respect I hadn't earned. He earned for us.